Hey guys, welcome to our Tuesday-Thursday series on tongue tie and lines of restriction in the body. Before we start, I just want you to know that I'm not a doctor, I'm not a professional, I'm not a lactation consultant. I'm just a mom who has studied this a lot and has a lot of experience with it in my own family. And I'm just sharing from my own experience things that I know to help other people understand what they're dealing with in their families better. All right, that's all. Thank you. So I asked people in my group what I should start with in this series, and a lot of people voted for issues with babies because that's such a critical issue that people deal with all the time. And I do want to start with that. But basically, I don't want to encourage anyone to go get a revision or work on restriction before first talking about the importance of body work. So that's our first topic, is the importance of body work. Okay? So basically what you have to understand about tongue tie is that it's not a problem of the tongue. It's a problem of the whole body. It's a problem of the fascia. If you've never heard of fascia, your most experience with it, whether you cook chicken or whether you have watched cooking shows or whatever, but the best way to understand fascia is by picturing a raw chicken, all right, when you're butchering a raw chicken. So, or not butchering, but breaking down, cutting up a raw chicken, okay? So if you cut into the chicken and you open it up, you'll notice that like when you move the legs and stuff around, there's this stretchy, webby stuff that holds all of the muscles and bones together. It like holds the chicken's thigh against its side, right? So when you open the chicken after you cut open the skin, you see that stretchy web. That's the fascia. And we have fascia too. And its job is to hold all of our stuff together. It holds all our organs together. It holds our bones next to our muscles. It's just this interconnected web that holds all of our stuff together inside of our body, okay? So the tongue tie is an exposed part of the fascia. Under the tongue here, or here, the lip, okay? Or some people have buccal ties here, all right? Those are exposed parts of the fascia, but they are not the only part of the fascia. All through our body is the fascia, okay? So the reason that body work is important with release, okay? So let's talk about a few things here. Revision is when you get a laser or scalpel cut of the tongue tie in the mouth. That's a revision, okay? Release refers to something more. It refers to the body working in an optimal way where it's not being pulled on by the fascia, okay? Think about it. Your fascia shouldn't be deciding where your muscles and bones go. Your bones and muscles should be deciding where they go, right? The problem with tongue ties is that the fascia is too tight and there's certain lines of tension in the body that affect the entire body. It doesn't just affect the tongue. It doesn't just affect nursing. It affects everything for your lifetime, okay? So when you go to get a revision, you have to understand that revision does not equal release. A revision doesn't release your tongue tie. It doesn't release your restriction, okay? Restriction is something much larger that refer to the lines of tension that go all throughout the body. So that's why the very first step is body work. Okay, before you even go for your revision, before you even schedule your revision, you schedule body work, okay? If you don't know what body work refers to, I'd never heard that phrase a few years ago when it came into the tongue tie world. That refers to stuff like chiropractic, CST, craniosacral therapy, massage, foot reflexology. Oh, another body work thing that I've heard of is CFT, craniofacial therapy or craniofacial release. Some other people mentioned stuff like neurosomatic or neuromuscular therapies, myofascial release, intraoral work, palate adjustment. There's all kinds of body work, and the point of this video is not to list every type of body work that you can get or should get. I will say that chiropractic and CST is absolutely essential. I'm sorry, you gotta do both of those things. Chiropractic, for anyone that hasn't experienced it, chiropractic adjusts the skeletal system, okay? It pops your skeleton back in the right spot. This is great, but it's not, personally, I don't think it's really great all by itself because the fascia hasn't been reset. Only the skeleton has been reset in a chiropractic adjustment. So basically, if your fascia is all messed up, you can set your skeleton back the way it goes, and the fascia is just going to pull it back in the wrong spot again, okay? So that's why you also really need CST, craniosacral therapy. And a lot of people that are CST practitioners don't just do CST, they also do, let's just say manual therapy. But basically, it's the idea of using your hands to feel the lines of tension in the body. For people that are nervous about letting someone put their hands on your baby, I would just do your research and get good recommendations. I know chiropractic is a little scary for people. People who are trained to work on babies are often trained to work on them very gently. My chiropractor doesn't pop my baby's skeleton. She just uses gentle pressure with her fingertips. She'll gently, move her head like this. Not where she's doing me like she doesn't do that with my baby, okay? All the people I've had multiple people work on my baby, none of them have used the same techniques as they use with an adult. So it's important to find someone who is experienced with babies. CST, if you don't have any experience with it, is extremely gentle. You can Google Upledger Institute if you want to know more about that. I'll put a link in the description. But I think that what I've read about it is that, and certainly I've experienced this, is that they don't use any more tension than the depth of a nickel. So they're only pushing, that much on your body. It's extremely gentle, but it's extremely effective because the fascia is going to respond to a more gentle manipulation, okay? So another factor here is how to afford everything. And I don't want to get too crazy on this because basically I will start to cry because that's the most awful thing to me is that a lot of these health therapies are becoming a commodity for people. Rich people can get their tongue tie fully released because they can pour $1 million into Bodywork and people that are on a limited budget can't. And I personally feel like that's the most unfair thing in the world. Health is a right, okay? And I don't know, a lot of things need to change to make that possible for people. But, when I asked people how they afforded this, I basically got 2 answers, or 3 answers. One, that their insurance covered it, some of it, okay? 2 is that they paid out of pocket. One person, this is an exact quote, one person said, "I paid out of pocket, it gets expensive, but it's worth it to me." That's basically what we did too. And then you have people who, in a third group, who basically don't have a choice. If your choice is whether to eat that month or whether to get another session of body work, it's more important to eat that month. So I don't really know what the solution is there. I know that it needs to be a priority. No matter what your financial situation is, you have to make it a priority or you're not going to be able to afford everything. Even really good insurance plans normally don't cover everything you need to do. Especially the older the person is, the more likely it is you're going to need a lot of body work to release those ties. Okay? If you are someone on a very limited budget, I guess what I would suggest to you is that you need to make a insurance or make a savings account just for your health care and figure out what you really can afford to pay into it and figure out where you can cut costs in other areas of your life, because I would say it's not worth getting a revision if you can't afford at least a few sessions of CST and chiropractic afterward, and ideally before. If I was going to say what would be the most ideal approach for our family, I would say chiropractic and CST before revision, like in the day or two before revision and as soon as possible after revision. If you can stop to get CST on your way home from the revision, that's ideal. All right. And within a day or two, or as soon as you can get in after your revision, you need to get in after your revision. Okay. In the months after, you really need body work for months after, and as much as you can do. You know, basically cost is the limiting factor. If you can do whatever if you can afford to throw as much money as this is possible, do body work 3 times a week. Do chiropractic, CST, and massage every week. You know, do all the other stuff that I mentioned that I don't have tons of experience with, but I know other people have found really, really helpful. Do everything you can. If you can afford it, do everything you can, because just like the chicken, when you cut the baby, when you cut the adult or kid, whoever the person is that's getting revised, when you make that cut, the body doesn't change, so the symptoms don't change. When you pull the chicken out of the bag, it's still in that exact same shape, okay? That's exactly what happens with the body when you have a revision. You need to work the body. And you know, when you cut open a chicken, once you start working it, you can see the fascia move, and you can see how you can adjust it so that the chicken is in a different shape, right? That's exactly what happens in the body. You need a lot of hands-on work on the fascia, working on the fascia to release those lines of tension. For myself, the line of tension that I have affects me from head to toe, all right? Bands of muscle here are tight. It comes down here. It comes through here. All this is very tight on me. It makes a crossed pattern in my body. So all of my internal organs are crossed or corkscrewed. My hips are corkscrewed. My tailbone is corkscrewed. I have issues with my knees and my ankles from these lines of tension, okay? When I got a revision and I did a lot of body work, all these problems were resolved, completely resolved. Back and neck, that was my number one. Back and neck pain, chronic back and neck pain, that was my problem. My husband has completely different lines of tension, completely different patterns of tension and problems. He has like sleep apnea, he has like weak ribs, okay? He has weakness like through his torso because of the way that his tongue tie pulled on his body. So it's different. Every person is different. There's no one thing. But the amazing thing about body workers is that they're so good at what they do. If you see someone good, they're so good at what they do. You won't even have to tell them what part hurts. You won't even have to tell them which part is tense. As soon as they put their hands on your body and start feeling around, they're immediately going to find the spot that's the problem and work on it. That's been my experience. Basically, you have to adjust the fascia, all right? And let's go back to the chicken. Let's go back to the chicken, okay? You get your chicken from the store. It's frozen, it's not frozen, whatever. It's in a bag, right? You cut open the bag, you pull out your chicken. What does the chicken do? It's still in the exact same shape as it was in the bag, right? That's because all the fascia and all the body is adjusted to this shape. It's stuck into that shape. And just opening the thing that was holding it in that shape doesn't adjust the body. Technically, the chicken is released from that bag when you open the bag, right? But when you look at the body of the chicken, you can see that it's still in that same shape. It's still restricted, even though the bag is opened. That's exactly what's happening when you get the tongue tie released. When you get the tongue tie revision, okay? The tongue might have been released, but unless you move that release throughout the entire body, you're probably going to continue to have the exact same symptoms that you had before, and it's much more likely that the tongue is going to reattach or regenerate, or basically that the physical tie is going to come back in the tongue because the tension pattern of the entire body is still present, okay? So I hope I covered everything. This was the first step here because I didn't want to encourage anyone to go get a revision as their first step of getting released, okay? The first step of release is body work, and body work is extremely important. Very, very, very important, okay? Body work is, I would say, the number one aspect of releasing a child from being tied or being restricted, okay? The revision is not the most important thing, although it can be a really critical thing for certain people, okay? But body work is the number one place to start, and it is the most important part of release, okay? So that's where we're starting. All right, hopefully I'll see people back for our part 2, which I'm not sure what it's gonna be yet. All right, thanks guys.